Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. We're giving you a roundup of the latest feature releases and product updates with Spacelift over the past few months. My name is Gareth. I'm on the marketing team here, joined by two formidable forces in Spacelift, Tim Davis and Joey Stout. I think you've got two big experts here. You can ask a lot of questions. They'll give you some good demos today. I'm going to jump off and let these guys run the content today, but just a quick bit of housekeeping. On the right hand side, you'll see a chat. You can drop any questions in there. And then we did have some questions that were put in on registration. You can see those in the Q&A. As we move questions over, you guys can upvote what you think are good questions that you want to have answered by these guys. We'll do a live Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Tim and Joey to take it away.
Excellent. Everybody, thanks for coming. Like Gareth said, we're going to kind of go over all the cool stuff that we've been working on over the past several months. Show you some things. If there's anything at any point in time you have questions of, hey, how does this work? Or you want to see a certain thing, let us know. We'll see if we can get to it. I am Tim Davis. I'm the Technical Product Marketing Manager here at Spacelift. And I have the pleasure of being joined today by Joey Stout. And I will let him give himself a little intro.
I'm Joey Stout, and I am a solutions architect at Spacelift. Fun fact about me is I actually used to be a Spacelift customer, so I have been in everybody's seat before.
Absolutely love that. Having used the product and loved the product, and now coming in and helping us get other people to love the product. So let's show you all the cool stuff we're doing. As a quick agenda, we're going to go through some big stuff. Going through all of the major things that have happened. You may have seen webinars for this before. So, if you have seen it before, cool. Maybe you hear something new. Otherwise, wait for the other stuff here. Then we're going to go for a little more of like all the rest. We have a bunch of little things that our engineering has done to make everybody's life a little easier. And then we're going to talk about something that you probably haven't heard of yet, and kind of go over a cool new tool that we're working on. And Joey will show you how that works near the end as well. So let's get into it. The big releases. You may or may not have heard at this point in time, but we have introduced Spacelift Intelligence as of last month. And this is a big offering for us. It's a multi-feature offering that all encompasses everything that we have to do with AI here at Spacelift at this point in time. And, with that, we're really showing and trying to point out and work with the fact that, over the years, development has sped up drastically. About 90% or so of developers these days have started using AI in some form or fashion. And out of those people, about 25% of their time or more is dedicated to utilizing AI inside of the development process. But with that being said, the infrastructure process hasn't really changed a lot. It's still very artifact and pipeline driven of make the change, push the change, wait for the pipeline to run, do all the tools. So there's a big gap that's starting to widen between how fast development's moving and how fast infrastructure is moving. And we're trying to solve that. Spacelift Intelligence is comprised of the Infra Assistant chat and also a product called Spacelift Intent, which we pulled open and showed you about 6 months or so ago. And that is simply using natural language to build infrastructure. There's no code. There's not anything like that. So we have Infra Assistant. We have Spacelift Intent. Infra Assistant is kind of the all-knowing person who's sitting next to you inside of your infrastructure that has all of the context. It knows where all the bodies are buried, so to speak. You can ask it, hey, do I have any CVEs that are related to any of my stacks? Do I have any other common vulnerabilities? Somebody told me that we have a S3 bucket sitting around somewhere for production stuff. What stack is that in? Anything that you would want to know that you would need a rich context of your environment, it'll let you know. If you can say, hey, how can I optimize this because this deployment pipeline is running a little bit slow? Then we've got Spacelift Intent, which is the actual build side, which comes in and simply says, I need to prototype this type of thing. Please tell me what type of infrastructure I might need and build it for me. Now, these days, there's a lot of infrastructure tools out there that are AI related that are just going to help you speed up and write that code. And that's great. It's super helpful to have a AI assistant to write HCL and stuff for you. But really, that's just a small iteration. That's an incremental change. What we're doing with Spacelift Intent is we're not doing code. We are simply packaging up all of the API calls and shipping it off directly to the provider APIs, and we're directly building the thing. We're cutting out the middleman step of needing to generate the code, put it in a repository, then run a pipeline. We're simply just building the infrastructure that you need. With that being said, all of that is still running within the guardrails of your policy that you set forth. That is, the most important thing is making sure that all of those policies are adhered to. So I'm going...
If I can interrupt you for a second. One thing that I just wanted to point out too is that intent actually can still generate code as well. And one thing that I'm actually seeing a lot of customers doing is they will use it to import existing resources into their infrastructure as code. So they'll ask intent, hey, I have this S3 bucket over here, import it into this intent project. And then intent can also interact with another new feature that we have called repos, and it can generate actual HCL code and add them to those Spacelift repos.
You are exactly right. And if y'all are interested in kind of seeing a demo of that, there's a video that I made based off of a demo that Joey wrote of looking and using the chat to find vulnerabilities inside of an S3 bucket. We're then looking at code examples of how to fix it, but then we say, maybe we're not good at code. We import it into Spacelift Intent. We let Intent make all of those changes for us. Then we recodify everything, drop it in repos, and push it out to a new stack. That way, you can make sure to follow that process all the way through, and you can find those in the Spacelift Intelligence playlist on our YouTube channel at Spacelift.io. Definitely check that out. There's a lot of cool content out there showing what you can do. But for right now, I just want to show you a quick little look at what that looks like inside of the Spacelift platform. So I'm going to jump over here and share my tab. And if you'll notice, we've got the infrastructure or infra assistant window baked straight into the Spacelift platform. I had a couple of chats where I was, trying to fix some vulnerabilities inside of an S3 bucket, and it's doing all of that for me. One thing you'll notice is that we have a little flipper here, and that's chat versus builds. Now with chat, this is going to be your infra assistant where you can ask it anything you want on your IAC side of the house. And it has all of the context of all of your stacks, all of your policies, all of your intent projects, and everything like that to be able to give you the answers you need and to be a trusted advisor and an assistant sitting right next to you working on your infrastructure day to day.
This is where you're going to ask, like, where are the security vulnerabilities? And since it has access into those stacks, it can see, oh, you have an S3 bucket that's configured incorrectly, and it will be able to direct you from there.
And it is really cool because if you ask it, which one of my stacks has this vulnerability, it will search every single stack and it will tell you which specific stacks have vulnerabilities. It's a really cool thing to have. And then also with the build side, you can actually make those changes and say, hey, I need you to build me this. But it's not just for resources, it's also for policy. So you can actually come into Spacelift Intent and build policies and say, create a access policy that prevents public EC2 access or public S3 access. Not only will it actually go through and write all of the Open Policy Agent Rego code for you, which if you've ever done that by hand before, it's not a fun time. It's not good. It will write all the policy for you, and it will then test the policy for you to make sure that the code that it wrote works, and then it will immediately start enforcing that policy. So you can actually come into your intent projects and tell it, hey, I want to be able to attach certain policies into my environments. I've already got the public S3, and we can detach this policy if we want, or we can come through and attach whatever policy that we want for that. You can also use intent to help you create and test policies that you can then connect to your infrastructure as code. So it's another cool thing of being able to help build and help manage and help monitor your infrastructure every step of the way to make sure that you're making the right choices and that everything is going well. Now, there's another feature that we want to jump to called templates. If you've heard of blueprints before, this is kind of the same thing, but with a whole new game. Templates is the next iteration of self-service, being able to codify and create the ability for your users to generate stacks based on the way that you would like them to. If you want to set up a little form so that they can say only create certain sized instances in certain regions, cool, you can absolutely do that. You allow them to deploy anything that they want to deploy anytime they want to deploy, but it fits within the specific guardrails that you set when you configure the template. And Joey's actually got a cool template thing that he can show you here. Let me stop sharing and let him jump in and show you what we're doing there.
All right. So this is the actual templates view. And what this is this is where the actual customers come in to use your templates. So maybe you have a template for creating worker pools in AWS. They could come to this templates view, click directly into that template, and then not click directly into the template. Actually, yes. And then they can come to a specific version of it. And why is this not letting me? Oh, I have to click the deploy button. I'm dumb. So they can click the deploy button on the template, and they'll get a form right here that shows them everything that you've customized on to actually create this specific template. So I could put a deployment name in here. I could say it's Joey's worker pool. I can select whatever information that template gives me. And we also get instructions right here on the right side of like what this template's actually going to do and what the variables and everything means. Once I fill this out, I can click deploy. When I do click deploy, it turns into a deployment inside of the template itself. So this specific thing right here, this test workers, is a deployment that somebody has created of this specific template. I can click into this and I'll see all of the resources that deployment actually created. And then at the end of the day, a template is backed by a Spacelift stack. So I can even jump to the stack and see the actual logs of the stack itself as well. One thing to note on here is that templates are creating read-only stacks. So you'll see all of the buttons inside of the stack are disabled. And the reason for that is because stacks managed by templates, the idea is that you would actually manage that stack through the template itself. You can also roll out new updates to the templates. So this version deployed right here for that specific template call is 1.0.6, but I could create a 1.0.7 and roll that out to all of the users of my specific templates. And that's kind of how your users would interact with the templates. But there's a second side to this that I want to show very quickly, and that's the templates workbench. And this is where you actually create the templates that are available to your customers. So I can jump into this templates workbench and I can see all of the versions of that template that have ever been deployed. I can click into it and I can see the actual, what this is the blueprint that builds that specific template, as well as the actual preview of what the template body would look like, and get a list of all the deployments that are using that specific version. So that's templates in a nutshell, and I will hand it now back to you, Tim.
Excellent, thank you. If you're interested in the self-service use case, blueprints are great, but templates are going to be the new feature moving forward that we're going to have you look at. We're definitely looking for any and all feedback we can get. This is a newer thing, and I already see that we've got, put the deploy button inside the template. I agree wholeheartedly, and I've already forwarded that through to the engineering team. So it's just one of those things where, Spacelift is as good as the feedback we get in the product, engineering teams that we have. We always want to hear from you and how these features are working for you. And if there's ways that you think that they could work better, we are always open to the feedback and love to hear what y'all have to say about this. So the next feature here that I want to talk about is Terragrunt native support. And I know this has kind of been a big one for several of our, big users. Terragrunt, we have, had support in the past, and I don't mind telling you that it was definitely a checkbox for a while. Could we run Terragrunt inside of the Spacelift platform? You bet we could, absolutely. But it wasn't necessarily the most, smoothest of experiences. It wasn't exactly graceful. And with this release, we have full native support for Terragrunt directly within the platform, and that includes state management inside of Spacelift for Terragrunt stacks. It's a big deal for us to have this support, to be able to finally say, we support it wholeheartedly and fully. And it actually worked out where Terragrunt 1.0.0 came out right as we were deploying, the native support. We didn't know that was coming. And, about 2 days after we put it behind a feature flag inside of the platform, we get the notification that they went GA with 1.0. And it was really cool to kind of be able to coincide with that and say, hey, you guys have this big milestone. This is great. Here's our big milestone, first class support. If anybody inside of the webinar here is using that, we'd love to hear from you and see if this has made a difference or anything like that for you. This is a big deal, and I just want to kind of show you exactly what that looks like. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to jump back over into my Spacelift instance. Come on, click share. So if I come into my stacks, I'm going to go to my Terragrunt stack here. And it's exactly like any of your other stacks would be. We come into our stack settings here. For our vendor, we've now got a Terragrunt version. If you want to use OpenTofu to run that, you can. But the big things that we're doing here now is manage state. Being able to say, hey, I need Spacelift to manage this state for me, as opposed to having to use a remote state somewhere else. That's the biggest change that we've got inside of this release, to bring that fully under management of Spacelift and make that a first-class citizen. We can use run all or not, depending on how you want your stacks to run. But anytime you want, just go ahead and create a new stack, point it at your Terragrunt, make sure that you select Terragrunt native there when you're creating that stack, and it'll allow you to set that up. It'll allow you to pull that back end in and manage all of that directly and natively from within the Spacelift instance. And it looks like we've got someone using Terragrunt in Spacelift, yes, but still with an S3 backend. Lauren, do you have any plans to migrate those from S3 over into the Spacelift management at all? I'd be curious about that. And while we do that, I'm going to go ahead and share here. The next thing that we want to talk about here is plugins. Plugins is a big deal for us. We all know that with DevOps and other things like that, there's always a multitude of tools that you need to make sure that everything is running smoothly, whether you want to do cost estimation with InfraCost, if you're doing static code analysis and compliance checks with, Checkov, or if you're doing anything like that. Having that natively within your pipeline is always important. Being able to shift left and bring those tools in so that you can, fail faster, find those issues faster before you deploy, that's important. And we've made the ability not only to take a large set of plugins and add them directly into the deployment process wherever you want to hook that, but we've also made the ability open source to create your own plugins if there are other tools you want to do. And that's using the SpaceForge SDK that allows you to build and maintain those plugins directly, inside of your instances.
We're seeing a lot of people building custom plugins with Spacelift too. So it's a pretty heavily used feature, and we're also open for contributions too. So if you guys build a plugin that you think the entire community could benefit from, definitely open up a pull request and one of us will look at it.
Yes, please do. I definitely want to reiterate the open source here. We've got the ability to create your own plugins. And if you want to help somebody else, then, by all means, please let us know, get that PR in, and, we'll get you set up as a contributor. But as of right now, these are all the plugins that we've got set up, things like Checkov, InfraCost, we've got TerraScan, Trivy, Trufflehog, Wiz. We've got lots of ability built right into the platform now without having to go through and kind of roll your own or build your own or find a way to, custom script or hook in or anything like that. It's a lot easier, and we're using tags for this. So you simply create the label of, you create a tag called Checkov, and then you do inside of your stack, you call it Checkov. So I want to say that it is this one. One of them does. There we go. So I've got it attached here, Checkov, and that's going to be attached as a context because I have the label set up. Any label that you put into your stack that says Checkov or whatever you call that label in the plugin, it will automatically assign that plugin and will automatically run it during the process. So it's really cool to be able to take these cool tools that you need, whether it be the ones that we've already set up for you or the ones that you want to create using SpaceForge, and connect them directly into your process and, use them as you see fit. But of course, there's more. There's a lot of small things that we do day to day. I would say that we're pushing out new features once every week, once every 2 weeks or something like that. But, not all of them are giant like templates or intelligence or anything like that. So talking about some of the smaller things that we've done, advanced stack roles, being able to have, stack admins and things like that so that you can have a little more granular control over what stacks can control what other stacks, what people can control what other stacks. We have space admin for non-root spaces. So for anybody that's using spaces, that separates out those teams and kind of creates that multi-tenancy feel inside of Spacelift, being able to set a space admin for that, you couldn't do that before. And they went through and assigned that so that now you can have an admin in a space that is not a root space specifically.
That was probably our biggest ask from a lot of the enterprise customers, is the ability to have that level of RBAC.
Absolutely. And we're always working to, make our RBAC and other, security and, things like that more granular to give you more control and more ability to set up multi-tenancy or to have self-service with things like templates. We're always working to fix that and make that better. If you have any feature requests, or if you, want to give feedback, feedback.spacelift.io is the place to do that. Things like plan, policy, performance. This is something that I never even would have thought was an issue, but there's a lot of different types of policy that can be set up at the plan stage that can cause some performance spikes when it's going through and trying to run that. One of our engineers noticed that there was an issue with plan runs and performance, figured out exactly what it was doing. It involved the policies, and they were able to then mitigate and fix that issue and push it out. And now we've got a lot of customers that are seeing a lot better performance time and runtime during the plan phase of their deployments.
Fun fact about that is the thing that was causing the slowdown was only being used by one customer. So we could talk to that customer, ask them if they were fine with us deprecating that feature. They said yes, and then everybody got a performance increase.
Yeah, it's really cool to kind of see that. It took me a minute to realize what was happening because I was reading back through in the engineering channel for when they were working on that, and it took me a second to kind of realize, oh, this is a big deal, but only one person is causing it. It was kind of wild to see, but really cool to see how they found that fix, integrated it, and were able to visually show how much better performance has been since then. With that being said, we've got a couple of things inside of the UI that's changed quite a bit. If you've noticed the upgraded navigation, so now instead of having a few things just shoved into the left nav, now we've got things that are sorted into groups. Just trying to help make sure that everybody can find what they're looking for. As we keep adding features more and more and more, you got to know that it's just kind of harder to have a big list of all the features one by one. So, breaking that down, putting them into groups that make them easier to find is something that we thought was going to be very helpful for y'all. And then, of course, there's the command palette. Being able to search, just hit escape or, whatever that key was, and find exactly what you're looking for, that's helpful. Going through and searching of pull up this stack or find this for me. Having that access, for shortcuts and, hotkeys and things like that. We all know them, love that through UIs. So we're just trying to make the UI a little easier for everybody to jump in and find exactly what they're looking for faster. Now, there's also Launchpad Learn. So anybody who has access to the Launchpad inside of Spacelift now has a Learn function in there. And I believe that's going to be for admin roles only. And what this is it's essentially, it's Spacelift Learning. They are guided modules to teach you how to use the platform or how to use specific features. And it goes all the way through the initial steps of configuring your first, VCS inside of the platform, all the way through advanced navigation or advanced management of resources. And there's 4 big modules that take a couple of hours each. If you walk through, they'll give you code examples and step-by-step walkthroughs of how to do all of these things so that you can learn how to use the Spacelift platform better. And I can tell you that if this is something that interests you, we're going to be having another little cool feature upgrade on this coming up sometime real soon that we think you're really going to like, and it's going to give you a little public recognition for learning the Spacelift platform and how to utilize features properly.
We're also, the way we built this is that it's really easy to extend. So if you guys are running into problems where like, hey, I need people to learn how to use context better, you can always open up that as a feature request, and we can make that happen for you pretty easily.
Absolutely. We always want the feedback. If there's something that you want to see at any given time, please always jump in there, to feedback.spacelift.io and tell us exactly what you're looking for. Now, with modules and integrations, we've also made some changes here. Cross-space module sharing. I know that this was a heavily asked for feature on our feature requests, being able to share modules across spaces. You would think that that would be a given, but at the time, it wasn't. So definitely having the ability to take those modules and share it out to anyone and everyone on the team that needs to be able to use it, whether you're using spaces or not, that was a big deal. So making sure that we can enable that for everyone was something that our engineering team was really happy to take on and for us to release for you. There's also more module sharing permissions. I mentioned a little bit ago, we definitely want our RBAC to be as granular as possible. We want to make sure that we provide you as much customization that we can. And module sharing permissions is a big one, being able to more granularly set who can see what and when and where. And then, of course, we've got auto attach for cloud integrations. This is a big one of whenever you have, say you're one user with one cloud that you've got set up, and you want every stack you make to be set up to this account or this cloud integration. Awesome. Just like the plugins, we're going to use labels for that. Set up a label, and then every stack you create, toss that label in it with auto attach, and it will automatically integrate that cloud. So you don't have to go through that setup process of going through and selecting it and going click here and attach. It'll auto attach those integrations based on the labels that you set up and the tags that you're using to connect using auto attach. Now, there's something really cool and new that we wanted to talk about, and we kind of split it out on its own here. And that's going to be Spacelift Flows. Now, with Spacelift Flows, this is kind of a really new area for us to be playing in. And, what happens after you go through and you deploy and you run your deployment pipelines and everything's out there? What happens if you have issues? 80% of your infrastructure work lives in the messy middle, running, maintaining, and responding and doing everything like that. So we needed a way to not only just help infrastructure in general, but also help ops and help automation. And that's really what Spacelift Flows is doing. We're doing incident automation, AI-powered workflows, self-service provisioning, and Spacelift native integrations. And really, it's a visual workflow automation platform that does some awesome things. And I can sit here and talk about it all day long, but really this is something that you have to see. And Joey's got a pretty cool demo here of Spacelift Flows. So let me stop sharing this and let him, show you what we're working on, because that's the most powerful way of, conveying it to you.
Yeah. So let me share Flows, and what we're looking at right here is the Flows screen. When you first log into Flows, you're going to be presented with the flows that you have access to in your specific account. Now, Spacelift Flows is a DevOps-oriented tool. It's a visual automation platform. And what that really means is that you can connect all of your external systems that you're used to using together with Flows. One example that I have here is a Jira approval flow. And what this flow is doing is this is actually a plugin as well that's available that you can install into your Spacelift account today. But this flow, it's going to basically watch for a Jira issue to get updated. And when that Jira issue gets updated, we're going to automatically decode some security things for it and then ask for approvals. When we ask for that approval, we will either approve it and then approve the run in Spacelift and confirm the run and then comment on the Jira card. Or if it's denied, we will reject the run, discard the run, and then comment on the Jira card that it was denied. So the idea behind this specific flow here is we're actually checking for cost analysis. We will run infra cost. It will see, hey, the cost is too high. We need to ask somebody in Jira to approve it before that happens. it will automatically create that issue in Jira, and then it will ask them to approve it inside of Jira. And then once it's actually approved inside of Jira, then it will approve the run or discard the run, and then let the team know in Jira what actually happened. The second piece that I want to show you is the AI piece. So you can build really easy AI agents with flows as well. So in this specific flow example, we're listening for mentions in a Slack channel, and then we're checking a simple condition for it, and then sending it over to an Anthropic agent that we've built here. And this Anthropic agent, all it does is it has two tools available to it. It can add results and it can subtract results, and then it can reply that result back to Slack. One really cool thing about Flows as well is that it's an event-driven platform. So all of the events that have actually come into this specific block, you'll be able to see that event directly from here. And then I can actually even replay that event. So I can re-emit it, and you'll actually see the event start propagating through the actual flow itself. You'll see that it was an addition result. It did the addition, and then it sent a response to Slack. And then I can look in this response, and it says the result of adding 5 and 5 is 10, because that's the initial thing that I sent through the actual agent itself. The last piece that I want to show you here is that we also have an AI agent within Flows. So I can come into Flows, I can create a new workflow, and I don't even have to know how to use the product itself. Generally, what you're going to do is you're going to come in here, you're going to click a block, and then you're going to drag and drop it, add things together right from here. But with this AI assistant, I can do things like build me a Spacelift approval flow, and then I could send that, and it will start actually adding things to this canvas, tying everything together and creating that approval flow.
That is super rad. And I love the AI part of that, because just like with Spacelift Intent, you may not necessarily want to go through all the, the rigor of click and drag and build and do the things. So just say, hey, this is what I want, and let it build it for you. AI is only as good as the context that you feed into it. So what it builds for you may not be exactly perfect, but it's going to be a really good starting point of, hey, let me tweak this, this, and this, and do that. Or keep feeding it more context and let it fix it.
I will say I've been using Flows a lot for the last about 6 months probably, and the AI assistant is really good at its job. So generally, if I ask it for something, it will build exactly what I ask for.
That is great. And that's, I feel the same way about Spacelift Intent, and also the AI Infra Assist inside of intelligence. We get asked a lot about hallucinations and things like that. And I mean, it's AI. Yes, it exists, but it exists very little in the usage that I've had with it. So it's definitely cool to see that we are building, AI tools that are very helpful, and also seem to be kind of on point with giving you exactly what you ask for. Now, I definitely, we've kind of come to the end here, but I know we've got some great questions up there. So, Gareth, if you want to jump in and help us get some questions up here, let's see what we got. Looks like we had some great ones today.
Yeah, reminder, if you have any more questions, just drop them in the chat. We'll mark them. And you can always go to that Q&A tab if you want to look at what's been asked and vote anything. So let's bring up the first one here. So Thomas asks, I saw, Joey, you did reply here in the thread, but for others who didn't see it, how is the plugin ecosystem vetted for malicious submissions?
Yep. So we actually vet all of the plugins at Spacelift before that they're merged into our product. So you've got engineers looking at every single submission that gets sent our way.
Very good. All right. Ben again asks, if you can't trigger template deployments, does Spacelift handle drift detection reconciliation for template deployments?
Yeah. Do you want to take this one, Tim, or you want me to?
You can if you want.
Okay. So Spacelift templates are the reincarnation of blueprints. And in a blueprint, you can set up the drift detection schedule. So as long as your blueprint template has that drift detection schedule configured, we'll handle the drift detection reconciliation for you.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I mean, blueprints and templates, they're just stack factories. All they're doing is spitting out stacks based on what you asked it in terms of customization. And for us, with any stack, you can absolutely set your drift detection schedule. You can set whether you want remediation in there. So whether you're using a template or building the stack yourself, at the end of the day, the stack is going to be able to be managed with drift detection.
All right, very good. So this is one we got ahead of time, but it's received some upvotes. Are there any plans for a better integration with GitHub Actions? Instead of never having to navigate away from GitHub, I'd love to just build the output readily available.
Yeah, do you want me to take it?
Yeah, you can. Go ahead, man.
So not a lot of people are super aware of this, but we actually have a feature in SpaceCTL that was purposefully built for this specific use case. And oh gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's stack dependence, or not stack external dependencies. I can find the end. Do you know the feature that I'm talking about, Tim? Do you know the name of it?
Unfortunately, inside of the CTL, I do not know offhand.
It's like stack. It's in policies. There's a thing in a push policy that you can use that will wait for an event from SpaceCTL to say, okay, trigger this stack now. And what that does is it basically you run your build pipeline in GitHub, and then at the end of your build pipeline, you can run SpaceCTL mark as complete, and then that will tell Spacelift, okay, run the infrastructure pipeline. If I can't remember the name of the feature off the top of my head, unfortunately. I have a really bad memory. But if you want to know more, I can definitely look into it for you, and then just send me an email, whoever asked this question, and I will let you know what the name of that feature is.
All right.
Excellent.
Next one here from Philip. Will we be able to deploy or use templates through SpaceCTL?
I can tell you offhand that I do not know I don't know the answer to this. I would need to go to engineering to find this out for you. But also, as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's a great question. I would love to know that. So I will definitely be finding that out. Please follow up with us, and I will get an answer for you. I'm, Tim D at spacelift.io. I would be glad to get that information for you, because as soon as I read that, I was like, that's a great question that I don't know. So I will ask the person who does and get that answer for you.
One thing to think about too is that Spacelift is an API first product. So
Yes.
Everything you can do in our UI, you can do through our API. So even if it's not supported in SpaceCTL, you can always write a quick script that would wrap those API calls to call it.
Yep.
All right. So there were a few questions on this. I think Brian, maybe earlier at the start, was asking about what's available in SaaS versus self-hosted versions. So yeah, any pointers from you guys here?
Yeah, and I've got an answer that kind of mimics exactly what Joey said as an answer, in the chat on that. Self-hosted is extremely important to us, just like the SaaS. So, I mean, we are always pushing to be one-to-one with that. But of course, builds are a little bit different, and sometimes the self-hosted is going to be a little bit further behind. And sometimes when it's not directly in the SaaS, the mechanisms are a little different. So sometimes it can take them a little bit to make that feature work properly when self-hosted. So the answer is yes, all of this stuff should be supported in time. As far as the timeline, it really depends on which specific feature you'd be looking at. And I would need to, talk to engineering and product and get that specific date for you. But just to reiterate, self-hosted for us is just as important as SaaS. We don't look badly upon one versus the other. So we are always working to make sure that they're as close to one at any given time as we can.
All right, here we got a question from Quinn on flows. So are the flows only manageable through the web GUI, or is there a way to manage them through code in a GitOps type flow?
Yep. So flows, we do have a Terraform provider for flows, and you can manage them through our API as well. All a flow is a really large YAML document. And so within flows, what you can actually do is you can hit Command A on your keyboard, and then you can hit Command C on your keyboard, and then you'll have that entire flow as YAML on your actual clipboard that you can then save into like your Terraform provider, and then use Spacelift to actually create those flows as like a GitOpsy type flow.
All right, cool. Thank you, Joey. All right, got a few more here. So Tim asks, are templates a reasonable way to do ephemeral per pull request environments?
I definitely think you can. They weren't really built to do that.
Right.
All it would really take is for you to create a template that would spin up your pull request environment. So maybe it has like a branch name as an input or something. And then you could use something like GitHub Actions to then, hey, on pull request, send an API call to Spacelift to create that ephemeral environment through that template.
Yeah, it would definitely require a trigger from, GitHub or your VCS. But like Joey said, I don't see why you couldn't do that.
All right, thank you guys. There's two questions here on Ansible. One was, so I'll kind of read them both, and I'll share this one that was ahead of time.
Sure.
So what's being done to allow scheduled jobs for Ansible? And then Timothy also asked, are there any plans to enable scheduled jobs for Ansible separate from scheduled Terraform jobs?
I believe, Joey, you had an answer to that.
Yeah, I don't fully understand what is being asked. You can create scheduled runs in Spacelift on an Ansible stack, and you can also create scheduled tasks in Spacelift on an Ansible stack. So I think that I would need a little bit more clarity on what it is that you're looking for to be able to answer it properly. But
Is that same for this one as well, Joey? From that, because that first one was one we got ahead of the event. Does this one any clearer or still the same?
Yeah, you can schedule, like create scheduled runs in Spacelift on an Ansible stack. And when I see the words enable scheduled jobs for Ansible, like I would lean towards yes. But the fact that this question has been answered twice, I don't think I have all of the information to properly answer it.
Okay. Well, Timothy, you're still on. We'll follow up with you if you have any questions, and we can get a bit more info to help you out here.
For sure.
Oh, and Lauren, also, thank you. That feature that I was forgetting is external dependencies. He answered it in the chat for us.
Brilliant. We love to see it. Thanks for helping out.
All right. Are Terragrunt stacks functionality now supported?
I would say no, yes and no. Our support simply allows you to natively run your Terragrunt stacks, or when I say the word stacks, I mean it in a Spacelift context. Point us at your repo and let us do the thing. As far as the Terragrunt native stacks, it's kind of the same thing, only different. So I would say the answer is it depends. I know that's not very helpful. But really, our native support simply adds, native state management and the ability to do run all and everything like that, like you would expect from a native Terragrunt, management platform.
All right, and last question here from Lauren. Does the native Terragrunt support include support for custom workflows via Spacelift workflow YAML file?
That is also a fantastic question that I do not know the answer to offhand. Joey, do you know that?
I would be shocked if it's not supported, because all of our stacks support that. But
I would think so as well, but I just don't know. So I would think it does, but we can find out 100% for sure and let you know. But I like Joey said, I would be surprised as well. I just hadn't looked into it. So great question.
And I also see Timothy clarified the question a little bit more, and it was more around the plan. So basically the question is, yes, you can create scheduled runs, but it requires you to be on a higher plan. I'm not in any of the conversations on the actual, like, what features are available and what plan level. I don't know if Tim or Gareth, you are, but I can't answer that.
So what I can say is at this current point in time on the roadmap and with engineering, there are not any major plans to change our Ansible support in any big way. I don't know if that answers the question or not, but it kind of does. We don't have any major plans coming up that involve Ansible changes. So it's going to end up being what it is for now. If you do want to see some changes, absolutely drop a feature request and let us know. Be as specific as you can with the information. And, we'll definitely see if it's got the, the support that we can get to make it happen for you. But definitely appreciate you clarifying that for us.
All right. So that was all the questions we had today. Definitely can do some follow-up with some folks who had questions where we need to do a little bit more research. So Tim and Joey, thank you both very much for the content today.
Sure.
Thanks everyone for joining. Again, this is recorded, so we'll send it out. You can share it with your teammates and for anyone who didn't join. And we will see you all in the next update we do in a few months.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.